2 hours after my daughter excluded me from the family photo, an incredible truth was revealed. It was a day that should have been filled with joy, but for Henry, it felt like a punch to the gut. The sounds of laughter, tinkling glasses, and heartfelt vows floated around him as he stood on the fringes of his daughter Emily's wedding. He could see her radiant smile, a look that melted his heart even as confusion churned in his chest. Yet it was the photo op that shattered him. As the family gathered for their picture, he was purposely left out, a ghost in the frame, unnoticed by everyone except himself. Panic rushed through him, a wave that felt thick, suffocating. 2 hours later, he still felt the sting of exclusion. Henry's hands trembled as he replayed the moment, as if stuck in slow motion. The radiant smile surrounding Emily felt like taunts, a reminder of his perceived inadequacy. All those years spent toiling away in the garage, missing her school plays, the father-daughter dances, and all the cherished moments, just to culminate in this, his own daughter turning away. But while his heart ached, so did Emily's. She stood by the edge of the dance floor, thinking of her worn childhood home, of the days when financial stress felt like an insurmountable wall. She didn't want her wedding day marred by whispers, so she had made a call that hurt them both. The truth was, her decision to exclude him from the photo had nothing to do with love, it was rooted in her shame about their life. Maybe people want to talk, she thought. But little did she know, those unspoken words festered like wounds, casting shadows over their relationship. As friends and family clinked champagne glasses, Henry's insecurities wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. They were memories of choices he didn't make, dreams deferred, and moments vanished into thin air. Each regret piled onto the last until he felt suffocated. He battled with his own identity as a father. What did it mean to be a dad if Emily believed she had to hide him away? Right then, something shifted inside him. Henry remembered the stories his own father had shared, whispers of a darker family legacy, one of sacrifice and unaddressed pain rooted deep in their lineage. It was a secret that had hung over them like an unspoken ghost. The more he thought, the more he understood that in order to bridge this chasm, he had to confront what had been buried for too long. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Maybe this letter from Emily's late grandmother, a letter that had remained unopened for years, would offer insight into their struggle. A release of years of pain and the hidden strength that had been passed down like a secret family recipe waiting to be revealed. Henry felt the weight of it in his hands, trembling with anticipation. Could this be the key to understanding Emily's perspective? Could it mend the broken pieces of their relationship or tear them apart further? As anxiety wrapped around him, the sun setting over Maplewood painted the world in hues of gold. They stood on the threshold of truth, a truth that could redefine everything. Henry sat on the porch of his old house, the weight of the unopened letter pressing against his knee. The golden hue of the setting sun cast long shadows, mixing memories with the fading light. He could hear the muffled laughter from the wedding reception, the joyous sounds blending with the ache in his chest. It was a stark reminder of what he lacked, his place in Emily's life. He finally broke the seal on the letter. The crackling paper felt ancient, as if it held stories long forgotten. Ripping it open, he unfolded the carefully scripted lines, each one a connection to a past he barely understood but deeply felt. Dear Emily, it started, if you're reading this, I am not there to see you step into this beautiful world as a bride. Henry's heart raced. The words washed over him like waves, pulling him into a tide of emotion. He leaned closer, eyes scanning the page. Each word seemed to breathe life into the paper, revealing glimpses of love, sorrow, and family strife. As he read, he discovered a grandmother who had faced hardships that mirrored his own battles with silence, painful decisions, and the overwhelming need to protect those she loved. She spoke of the weight of shame, about how regret could suffocate joy if allowed to linger unexamined. Henry's fingers traced the ink, feeling the ink run warm through time. "Always remember," the letter continued, "our family is bound not just by blood but by our shared truth. Embrace your story, even when it feels heavy. It can set you free." Tears blurred his vision. Could it be that Emily felt the same shame? The letter not only spoke to him but opened a window into the unseen heart of his daughter. He needed to confront her, to help her see that burdens could be shared. The ghost of exclusion didn't have to haunt them forever. Suddenly, Henry felt invigorated. He stood up and gathered himself, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. He would not let this moment linger in the shadows. He could be the father Emily needed, ready to serve as a bridge instead of a barrier. The weight of the past would not hold him back any longer. Determination surged within him. He was quiet, yes, but not powerless. He would speak to Emily when the night ended. He would tell her about his own struggles and how he learned to embrace who he was, the very thing her grandmother had urged them all to do. But as he turned to head back inside, something caught his eye: a figure emerging from the reception. It was Emily, her white gown catching the last slivers of sunlight. She looked beautiful, yet vulnerable, her smile hesitant as she scanned the crowd, searching for someone, or maybe something. A knot tightened in Henry's stomach. He felt a rush of urgency. What if she was still caught in her bubble of shame, wrestling with feelings of exclusion that had haunted him all evening? With the letter still trembling in his pocket, Henry stepped off the porch and took a deep breath. A surge of hope filled him. He would reach out tonight, face to face, heart to heart. "Emily!" he called, breaking through the laughter and chatter that surrounded them. As Emily turned, the look on her face mirrored a mix of surprise and uncertainty. The moment felt electric, heavy with unspoken words, yet full of potential. Would this be the moment they finally begin to understand one another? What truths would they unveil together? The answer teetered in the air, waiting for the next breath. Emily hesitated, her gaze locking onto her father's. He could see the tension radiating from her, a barely masked blend of confusion and fear. In that heartbeat of silence, the world around them faded, the wedding buzz dimming into an echo. "Dad?" Her voice trembled lightly, as if the word itself was a challenge. Henry stepped forward, his heartbeat loud in his ears. He could feel the weight of everything he wanted to say rushing to the surface. "Can we talk?" He gestured toward a quieter spot away from the crowd, needing space to breathe and share. The flicker of uncertainty crossed her face again, but then Emily nodded, drawing in a deep breath as she smoothed the folds of her gown. Together, they navigated through clusters of chatting guests, past twinkling lights that hung like stars, suffused with a sense of warmth that felt both inviting and intimidating. Finding a secluded corner beneath an old oak tree, they paused. Henry could smell the faint scent of pine mixed with the remnants of summer blooms. His stomach churned with nervous energy. I wasn't sure you would come," Emily stuttered, her eyes darting around, avoiding his gaze. "I thought you might." Henry shook his head, cutting her off gently. "No, Emily. I'm here." He swallowed hard, fighting against the choke in his throat that rose as he thought of her face just moments ago, joyous yet distant. "I wanted to see you, to talk. I read Grandma's letter." As soon as he uttered the words, he saw her shoulders tense, the corners of her mouth tightening into a tight line. "You shouldn't have read it," she murmured. "It's private." "I know," he replied softly, feeling the sharp edge of guilt. "But I couldn't ignore it. There's so much and there's so much that speaks to both of us. It's about facing the truth." Emily crossed her arms, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. "What do you know about truth?" The words slipped out bitterly, and they landed like stones between them. Henry stepped closer, compassion rising in him as he observed the hurt behind her eyes. "I know it hurts. It eats at you if you don't share it. I've carried my own truths, my own shame. Reading Grandma's letter made me realize we can't let those things separate us. Tears glimmered in Emily's eyes, and in that moment, Henry felt a strange bond, like a tenuous thread connecting their hearts. I don't want to drag you down, Dad. I thought if I cut myself off from the pain, I could somehow protect you, she confessed, her voice cracking. No, you don't have to protect me from you, he whispered, battling against the flood of emotion. I need you too. It's your struggles that make you who you are, and I want to be a part of that. I want us to face it together. Emily's breath hitched as she looked at him, and for a brief moment, he could see a flicker of understanding reflected in her gaze. What if I can't? She asked, her voice small and uncertain. Then we'll figure it out together. His heart was pounding, hope rushing into the spaces that silence once filled. But I need you to trust me, to let me in. Please. A soft smile began to rival the sadness in her eyes, hesitantly budding like a flower. Before Henry could respond, a burst of laughter from the reception interrupted, reminding them of the world they had stepped away from, one filled with expectations and echoes of joy. Dad? Emily's voice broke through his thoughts, and worry threaded through her words again. Can we really share this? Can you handle what's ahead? Her question hung heavy in the air. Henry took a deep breath, his heart racing with the possibilities, both thrilling and terrifying. I can't promise it'll be easy, but I promise I'll be here no matter what. In that moment, Emily took a step closer, uncertainty dancing in her eyes, yet courage teetering on the brink. Would she take that leap? Would they finally break the cycle that had kept them apart? As they stood together under the oak tree, the sky overhead swirled with deepening colors. Hope fluttered like the leaves overhead, and for the first time, Henry believed they could begin to write a new chapter together. What lies ahead for them? The night held untold revelations, waiting just beneath the surface. The air crackled with anticipation, and Henry felt it pulse between them like a living thing. Emily's eyes sparkled with a mixture of trepidation and something that looked like hope, and he knew they were standing on the precipice of something profound. Can we sit? She gestured to a nearby stone bench, half hidden by the oak's sprawling branches. They settled down, the cool stone pressing starkly against the warmth of their skin. I just want to say, Emily began, her voice wavering. I've kept so much inside, and I thought it would go away if I ignored it. It doesn't work that way, Henry said gently. He rested his hands on his knees, eager to show her that he was listening, ready to bear her burdens. I've learned that the hard way. A long silence stretched between them. The sounds of laughter and music drifted from the reception, a stark contrast to the heavy emotions swirling in the air. Mom was always good at pretending, wasn't she? Emily finally whispered, glancing down at her hands, twisting her ring nervously. She smiled, but I could see it in her eyes. There was this sadness, and I thought if I stayed silent, I wouldn't become her. Henry's heart ached at her words. You're not her, Em. You're your own person, and that dark cloud doesn't define you. What if it does? Emily challenged, her eyes flashing with defiance mixed with vulnerability. What if it's too late for me to change? What if asking for help means I'll just drag you down too? He reached out, his fingers brushing against hers. You won't drag me down. Sharing the burden is what lightens it. Don't you see? We're in this together. Emily nodded slowly, but the tension still held her shoulders rigid. I keep thinking if I could just fix it myself. I can't keep feeling vulnerable. The raw honesty of her words broke his heart. Just like that, he saw a girl struggling not to be crushed by expectations, hers and the world's vulnerability isn't weakness, Emily. It's brave. It's the first step to healing. I don't know if I'm brave, she replied, a tear escaping down her cheek. Bravery isn't the absence of fear, he said, stealing his voice. It's the willingness to face it. Don't you want to find out what's underneath all of this pain? She hesitated, her mind working, and Henry could practically see the gears turning. It wasn't just about sharing her burdens, it was about the possibility of hope. I don't want to lose you. I already feel so lost, she finally admitted, her voice trembling. You won't lose me, he promised. I'll stand by you through it all. And if we take it one step at a time, maybe we can gradually leave the past behind, together. The sincerity in his gaze seemed to ignite something in her. Emily drew a deep breath, tentatively. Okay, she whispered, a spark of resolve igniting in those tearful eyes. I'll try. Good, he replied, relief flooding him. That's all I ask. Trying is enough. As if a door had opened to reveal a bluer sky above, the atmosphere around them shifted. The tension began to dissipate, replaced with cautious optimism. Emily was still unsteady, but she was willing. Before he could grasp the moment, she leaned in, resting her head against his shoulder. It was small, but it felt like a mountain had been moved. Thank you for coming back to me, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. With her feeling safe enough to lean on him, Henry could taste hope on the tip of his tongue. But the night still loomed large with unanswered questions. What would come next? As the laughter from the reception swirled back into their space, enveloping them in its vibrant energy, the crack of a distant thunderstorm rumbled in the background, amplifying the gravity of the moment. The truth lay ahead, waiting for them both, tangled in shadows and light. Would they have the courage to discover it? Dad, she said suddenly, breaking the spell, what was Grandma really trying to say in that letter? What if it leads to something even bigger? His heart sank and raced at the same time. Let us find out, he replied, a thrill of uncertainty dancing in his chest. The real journey was just beginning. Henry took a deep breath, feeling the weight of Emily's question settle heavily in the air. They had barely started to scratch the surface, yet here they were, poised on the edge of another daunting revelation. Let us find out, he echoed, more to reassure himself than anything. He stood slowly, still holding on to Emily's hand, strengthening their connection for what was to come. The reception was alive with joy, laughter spilling from every corner, but Henry felt a stark contrast, an electric charge of nervousness course through him. What could be in that letter? His thoughts swirled with the implications, each possibility more tangled and complicated than the last. Maybe it held secrets that could change everything for them, or perhaps it would just amplify the hardships they were already facing. As they made their way through the cheerful throng, each step felt like a plunge into unknown waters. Music echoed around them, blending with the festive atmosphere, but Henry felt detached from it all. He glanced sideways at Emily, whose face was flushed with determination and doubt. What if it's about her struggles? What if she was holding something from us? She mused, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement, a blend Henry had seen before. I guess we don't know until we read it, he replied, squeezing her hand gently. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. Experience has prepared us for this. Experience, Emily repeated, her voice almost a whisper. Sometimes it just feels so overwhelming. They reached a quiet spot, a small alcove where the noise faded and shadows hugged the walls like old friends. Henry could see the small envelope still tucked away in Emily's bag, the edges barely peeking out. The sight of it sparked both anxiety and hope within him. Here, Emily said, her voice steadying as she released his hand to retrieve the letter. Let us do this. She carefully pulled it out, her hands trembling slightly as she examined it. Henry watched as she flipped it over, tracing the delicate handwriting of her grandmother, adventurous yet careful. With a deep breath, Emily tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, preparing herself mentally. Are you ready? She asked, vulnerability spilling from her voice. I am, but it's you who has to embrace this. He nodded, encouraging her. Just read it out loud. I'm right here with you. Emily nodded, unfolding the letter with deliberate, almost sacred care. The slight rustle of paper broke the heavy silence. She started reading, her voice soft but gradually gaining power. Each word painted a picture, and soon the air around them shifted. "Dearest Emily," she began, concentration knitting her brow. "If you're reading this, it means I can no longer be with you." Henry felt a lump rise in his throat. He glanced around the semi-dark space, the laughter from the wedding still echoing in muted waves. He thought about their family, what they had lost, what remained, and what words were left unspoken. Emily's voice cracked slightly but then steadied. The gravity of the words pulled them further into the realm of the past. They could feel her grandmother's essence, alive in the memories that spilled from the lines, a blend of wisdom, regret, and love. As she read, Henry sensed Emily drawing strength from those words, every syllable fortifying their bond, piece by piece. It was then his heart raced again, not from fear, but anticipation. He could see the wheels turning in her mind, questions already brewing for the next moment, but as they approached the end of the letter, a sudden thunderclap rumbled in the distance once more vibrant and close. It mirrored the unresolved emotions resting just below the surface. "Wait, what?" Emily exclaimed, her eyes widening in disbelief. "What is it?" Henry leaned closer, urgency overtaking him. She pointed to a finished sentence, her voice rising. "I always wanted you to know the truth about your mother." His breath caught in his throat. The truth about her mother? What could that mean? Before they could digest the implications, the festivities outside erupted into cheers, a stark reminder of life continuing beyond their own moment. What lay ahead was a journey woven with fragile threads of hope and uncertainty. "Emily," he said, his heart racing as he tried to find words. "Are you ready for whatever comes next?" But as she looked at him, her expression caught somewhere between fear and excitement. He realized the real adventure was just beginning. Emily's hands trembled as she held the letter, her fingers barely steady against the weight of her emotions. The words lingered in the air, vibrating with unsaid meanings. She was spiraling into a maze of questions, wrapped in the fabric of her grandmother's wisdom. 2 hours, huh? She murmured, half to herself, half to Henry, her gaze shifting to the half-open envelope in her palm. What do you think she meant by that? Henry swallowed hard, trying to process the storm of emotions swirling between them. Maybe it's not just about the past, maybe it's about the future too. She wants you to know something important. Emily bit her lip, eyes narrowing as she reread that particular line. The truth about my mother. A single tear slipped down her cheek, her surprise melting into something deeper. Fear was still there, but now it was also intertwined with hope and longing. What if my mother was hiding something? She whispered, almost afraid to utter the thought. What if she didn't want us to know? Or what if she was trying to protect us? Henry offered gently, wanting to ease the heaviness pressing down on her. We won't know unless we find out. The noise of the wedding faded farther away, eclipsed by the rising tide of their emotions. Emily took a deep breath, brushing the tear from her cheek. She straightened up, a new fire sparking in her eyes. I can't just ignore this. I need to understand. However hard it is. Together, remember? Henry smiled softly, squeezing her hand again. He could feel her resolve firming up, becoming resilient. Emily nodded, unfolding the letter once more with care. All right. I'll finish reading. She breathed in, letting the words wash over her, bringing her closer to the woman who had been such a silent anchor in her life. The weight of the message unfolded, revealing layers of love mingled with regret. I need you to do something for me, Emily continued reading, her voice strengthening. Find the box I've hidden. Within it is the story of your mother's life, the pieces of her that are missing. Henry felt a chill run down his spine. His mind raced with images of old family photos and dusty keepsakes, memories stored away and waiting to be uncovered. What kind of story? Emily finished reading, her brow furrowed. This sounds like more than just. But before she could finish, another clap of thunder rumbled, louder this time, interrupting them. It sent a shiver down her spine and left them both feeling exposed, as if caught in a sudden downpour with no shelter in sight. "Maybe we should go back," Henry suggested, reluctant to leave the moment but sensing the unsettling change in the air. "No way." Emily's voice was firm, filled with a strange determination that surprised him. "This is bigger than a wedding, bigger than everything going on around us. I want to find that box. I need to find the truth." Before they could further discuss it, a group of guests wandered toward the alcove, laughter spilling out as they approached. Henry exchanged a glance with Emily, recognizing the urgency pulsating between them. "Let us get back and blend in for now," he said, trying to string together some clarity amidst chaos. "But after, we're going to dig into this. We have to." Emily nodded, but there was something lingering in her eyes, a mix of uncertainty and resolve, together creating a powerful glow. As they stepped back into the vibrant reception, the clanking of glasses and sounds of joy swirled around them, but now those sounds felt like a distant echo, overshadowed by the promise of revelations yet to come. The clock in the background ticked steadily, seeming to count down toward an impending moment of understanding. "What kind of story did you leave behind, Mom?" Emily whispered under her breath, her heart pounding with each word packed full of questions about family ties torn and truths hidden. "Whatever it is, we'll face it," Henry reassured her quietly, feeling a rush of emotion that they'd have to navigate together. But as they settled back into the festivities, the clouds gathered above, hinting at a change in the air, a storm brewing not just in the sky, but in the depths of their familial history, waiting for the perfect moment to unfold. What awaited them once they opened that box? Would it strengthen the bonds they had or tear them apart once more? Emily felt the pulsing energy of the celebration around her, laughter and music filling the air. Yet, each sound seemed to touch her like a gentle reminder of the decision looming ahead. She glanced at Henry, who was chatting amicably with guests, his laughter bright but distant, as if coming through a filter. Her heart raced as her mind wrestled with thoughts of that box. "Are you okay?" Henry asked suddenly, turning to her, his brows slightly furrowed. She forced a smile. "Yeah, just thinking about what's next." Her voice was steady, but the weight of her grandmother's words hung over her like a shadow. "Hey," he said gently, bringing her focus back. "We're in this together, remember? Just like we said." She nodded, grateful for his presence. When the right time came, they would dive into the mystery her grandmother had left behind. For now, they danced through the evening through wedding toasts and shared glances, feeling the warmth of happiness swirl around them. But the thrill of the celebration began to flicker under the strain of the looming truth. As the last toast echoed over clinking glasses, Emily felt a pull inside her. The urgency was becoming a fire that ignited her every thought. "After this, we get that box," she whispered to Henry, her voice firm and intent. "Absolutely," he replied, his eyes locking with hers, filled with an understanding that deepened their connection. As the night wore on, the couple joined other guests under the twinkling fairy lights outside, searching for a moment of peace. The storm still hovered in the distance, weaving through the gloaming sky. There was a lull in the festivities as some guests began to drift towards the exit. Emily leaned against the wooden railing of the outdoor patio, gazing into the twilight. A sudden burst of wind sent a chill through her, and as she shivered, thoughts of her mother flooded back, her laughter, her absence, the secrets she carried. "Let us tell each other what we're feeling," Henry suggested, his voice quieter now, cocooning the two of them away from the world. "What's running through your mind right now?" Emily hesitated. "I'm scared about what I might find in that box. What if it opens something I can't handle?" "Whatever it is, you can handle it. I'm here. We're in this together, right?" She wanted to believe him, but doubts swirled, blending with hopes. What if there's something terrible? Something that changes everything? Or something beautiful, he countered softly. Something that teaches you about who you are, about your family. She let that sink in. "You really think so?" "I do." He took a step closer, his warmth radiating comfort against the cool evening air. You said your grandmother's wisdom has been a guide. What if this is just another layer? A chance to connect with your mom differently. Emily's heart lifted at the thought. Maybe opening that box could bring her closer to understanding her mother, bridging the gap time had forced between them. We should be brave, she finally said, her voice steady. I want to find out what's in there. I deserve the truth. Henry smiled, his expression a blend of pride and affection. Yes, you do, he agreed, squeezing her hand gently, but before they could discuss their next steps, a distant rumble of thunder interrupted, closer this time. The sky darkened further, ominous clouds rolling in with palpable tension, almost as if they were bracing for the inevitable unfolding of secrets. Matthew, a distant cousin of Emily's, wandered over, breaking their intimate moment. Hey, you guys. Is everything okay? The storm looks like it's going to hit soon. We're fine, Henry replied, glancing at Emily. She felt a surge of urgency underlining their moment, the clock ticking louder in her mind. Good. Just wanted to check. Matthew said cheerfully, oblivious to the deeper current threading through their conversation. As he walked away, Emily turned back to Henry. We have to do it soon before the storm hits. All right, he said, his voice low and sure. Let us see what that box holds. Let us uncover the story of your mother. With one final glance at the darkening horizon, she took a deep breath, drawing courage from its weight. Soon, everything would change. Are you ready? Henry asked gently, sensing her anticipation. More than ready, she replied, heart pounding. She felt the thrill of unknowns wrapped in possibility. The winds whipped around them, a reminder that time was fading and the truth was waiting, just out of reach but drawing closer. What if they weren't ready for what lay ahead? What if the storm inside the box was stronger than the one brewing above? The storm clouds loomed like a curtain of shadows, threatening to crash their little haven with rain and thunder. Emily took one last breath of the sweet, damp air, both exhilarated and terrified at what lay ahead. Together, they pressed through the fading celebration and headed towards the small, unassuming attic door at the back of her grandmother's house. It felt symbolic, a transition from the light-hearted laughter of the wedding to the heavy burden of discovery. With each step, Emily's heart beat louder in her chest, echoing her swirling thoughts. Would she find a piece of her mother in that box? Or something darker? The stairway creaked under their feet, a solemn reminder that every step they took pulled them deeper into the past. When they reached the attic, Emily hesitated. The door had always felt like a barrier, a line between her bright childhood memories and the secrets she had vowed to confront. With a glance at Henry, who nodded encouragingly, she pushed the door open. Dust motes danced in the dim light, and the smell of old wood and forgotten stories enveloped them. The attic was cluttered, filled with boxes piled precariously and furniture draped in ghostly sheets. In the far corner sat the box, small but mighty, draped in shadows as if it were holding its breath, waiting for someone to unlock its mysteries. Is this it? Henry whispered, eyes wide with anticipation. Emily stepped forward, the box seeming to pulse with potential. Yeah, this is it. Her voice trembled, a mix of excitement and dread. Slowly, she knelt down and brushed her hands over the old wood, feeling the grain beneath her fingertips. It was a precious object, yet it felt heavy like an anchor pulling her deeper into a current that threatened to swallow her whole. Open it, Henry said, his voice steady but soft, grounding her amidst the tempest within. Inhaling deeply, she nodded. Her fingers fumbled with the latch, a simple mechanism that, once released, felt monumental. The metal clicked open, sending a shiver of both fear and curiosity coursing through her. She lifted the lid, and with each inch it rose, the world outside fell away. Inside were letters, photographs, and trinkets, each one a fragment of a life once lived. A collection of memories, maybe even regrets. Emily could feel her pulse quicken as she rifled through the items, her breath hitching in her throat. She started with a letter, the paper fragile under her touch. The handwriting was familiar, just like her mother's. Emily's heart raced as she read the first line, "My dearest Emily." "What does it say?" Henry leaned closer, his curiosity palpable. She took a moment, letting the words sink in. Her mother spoke of love, of struggle, of choices made and dreams deferred. As she read on, a pit formed in her stomach. She's talking about how she felt trapped, about choices she wished she could change. Emily's voice quaked, a veil of tears threatening to spill over. "Trapped?" Henry echoed softly. She felt like she had to choose between her family and her own happiness. A shudder ran through Emily. Did my mother regret leaving us? The silence in the attic grew heavy, an invisible weight pressing down on them. Suddenly, the distant rumble of thunder echoed through the rafters, reminding them of the storm brewing outside. But inside, Emily felt a tempest of her own. The truth she unearthed was shifting her understanding of her mother's decisions, potentially reshaping her own life narrative. "Are you okay?" Henry asked, concern etched into his features. Emily closed her eyes, fighting back tears. "I thought I was ready, but this is more than I expected." As she continued to sift through the box, emotions swirled within her: pain, betrayal, and a flicker of understanding. Among the letters, she spotted a small locket, glinting with possibility. She picked it up, a sense of foreboding filling her. She could feel that it was significant. "What if this is the key to everything?" she whispered, her voice brimming with both fear and possibility. As they stared at the locket, lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the attic for a brief moment. "Let us open it together," Henry suggested, his eyes never leaving hers. As they prepared to pry the locket open, Emily could feel her heart racing. It was the beginning of uncovering something larger than herself. What if it led her to answers she'd never even thought to ask? What would the next storm reveal? The locket felt impossibly small in Emily's hand, yet it held a weight that sent shivers down her spine. She and Henry exchanged glances, a shared silence vibrating with anticipation. With shaky breaths, they leaned closer, the faint sound of rain starting to tap against the roof, echoing the rhythm of their hearts. "Do you think it contains a picture?" Henry asked, his eagerness palpable. "Or maybe something she wrote," Emily replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "It could be, it could change everything." With each word, she felt a flare of anxiety. What if this locket revealed a truth she wasn't ready to face? Setting her jaw, she pushed the fear aside. They needed to know. Gingerly, Emily traced the delicate outline of the locket with her thumb, searching for any mechanism that might unlock its mysteries. There was a tiny clasp at the top, and with a deep breath, she pressed it down. The locket sprang open with a soft click, revealing its contents. Inside, nestled in a worn velvet lining, lay a small, faded photograph. Her fingers trembled as she lifted it out, blinking away tears that threatened to blur her vision. It was a picture of her mother, young and vibrant, smiling brightly. But next to her stood a man Emily didn't recognize. He had a rugged face and warm eyes, exuding an energy that felt almost magnetic. "Who is he?" Henry leaned closer, examining the photograph with intensity. "I have no idea," Emily replied, her mind racing. "But I've never seen him before. Why would Mom keep this hidden?" As she turned the photo over, she found words inscribed on the back: "Always remember the love that brought us together." Her heart pounded in her ears. There was a connection here that felt undeniable, and yet it slipped through her fingers like sand. "Maybe he's someone she loved before marrying your dad," Henry suggested tentatively, trying to connect the dots. A lump formed in Emily's throat. "But that means she kept a part of her life a secret from us, from me." The realization struck her hard. Regardless of who this man was, her mother had hidden this piece of her past, and it felt as though the ground beneath her was shifting. More raindrops began to splatter against the roof, a frantic patter that matched the turmoil swirling inside her. "Maybe I don't want to know," she murmured, wrestling with the internal battle aching to escape. Henry placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. But what if knowing helps you understand her better? She didn't have an answer. Instead, she turned the locket over in her palm, as if hoping for clarity. What do we do with this information? Let us keep digging, he replied resolutely. Whatever we find, we face it together. The air felt electric as they shared that moment of resolve, the storm outside intensifying. Emily nodded, determination igniting within her. She had to understand who her mother was beyond her role as a parent. It was time to unravel more of the mystery. As they continued searching through the box, Emily discovered more letters, each one peeling back layers of her mother's life. Tales of laughter and pain, dreams that soared and moments lost. She found a journal, its pages yellowed with age. This might give us more context, she said, her fingers itching to delve into its depths. However, as she opened the journal, a sudden clap of thunder rattled the attic, and for a moment, the world seemed to halt, time suspended in fear and anticipation. Henry's voice broke through her focus, trembling slightly. Look at this. He held up a neatly folded piece of paper, stained and fragile, like it had been tucked away for years. What does it say? Unfolding it carefully, she scanned the words, her breath hitching in disbelief. There, in her mother's handwriting, was an address, one that echoed hauntingly in her mind. One that seemed to ignite an array of questions. Do you think it's a place we should go? Henry asked, intrigue mirrored in his eyes. Emily felt the weight of the moment sink in, a precarious mix of fear and adrenaline. We have to, she whispered. What lay at the end of this path? The storm raged outside, but inside, a new journey was about to unfold. Would they find answers, or would this lead to more questions? The thrill of chasing the truth beckoned her forward, and despite the storm, she felt the stirrings of hope. What awaited them at the address her mother had penned down? Would it be a revelation or another puzzle piece in the labyrinth of her mother's past? The next step loomed, and Emily knew there was no turning back. With the storm outside intensifying, Emily and Henry felt as though a tempest had also taken hold of their hearts. There it was, the address scrawled in her mother's handwriting and pulsating with potential. She turned it over in her hands, each line wrapped in mystery and possibility. Could this lead them to the answers she craved? The thunder rumbled loudly overhead, almost echoing their inner chaos. What do you think we'll find there? Henry asked, his voice low and serious. He shifted closer, a steady anchor in this storm of uncertainty. I don't know, she admitted, biting her lip as fear danced in her chest. But I have to know. I owe it to myself and to Mom. Then let us do this, he encouraged, squeezing her hand. If nothing else, we're diving into the truth together. The urgency thrummed between them as they descended from the attic, leaving behind cobwebs of the past to chase down the legacy her mother had struggled with. Each creaking step down the staircase felt weighted yet exhilarating, anticipation coursing through her veins. As soon as they reached the ground floor, the rain began to pound against the windows, mirroring the tumultuous thoughts in Emily's mind. Do you have a car? She asked, glancing back at him, hope gleaming in her eyes. Henry nodded. Let us go find it. Rain drenched everything, but the world felt invigorating, charged with the energy of a fresh start. They hopped into the old sedan Henry drove, water cascading down the windows like the tears they had both held back. Which way? He asked, pulling out the crumpled address from Emily's pocket. It was a street not far from where they stood, just 10 minutes' drive or a lifetime, really. Turn left at the next light, she instructed, nerves dancing in her belly. It's an old family neighbor, I think. As they drove, she felt the weight of every unanswered question pressing on her heart. What would they find when they arrived? Did it hold the wisdom she longed to grasp? With each passing moment, the anticipation grew heavier but also brighter. Emily could sense new resilience blossoming inside her. They neared the destination, an address that carried the echo of secrets and love unspoken. Here, she pointed, her voice barely a whisper as they reached an unassuming house, its paint chipping but filled with a sense of history. It stood in stark contrast to their recent celebration, the wedding glimmering across town, where joy rang so loud they could almost hear it. "Ready?" Henry asked, eyes locked onto hers, silently pledging his support. With a deep breath, she nodded. More than ready. As they stepped outside, raindrops dripped like the tears they had shed. The air felt electric, raw with possibility. Together, they approached the door, and Emily's heart thrummed as she raised her hand to knock. "Here goes," she murmured, and with the first rap of knuckles against wood, it felt as if years of uncertainty swirled into the ether, making way for courage. The door creaked open, revealing an elderly woman with kind eyes that sparkled with recognition. Emily's breath hitched in her throat. "Aunt Claire?" She managed to call out, realizing the connection now, the whispers of family and lore long buried. The woman's face lit up. "Emily? My dear, it's been ages." Aunt Claire's embrace enveloped her, leaving a warmth that melted the uncertainty away, if only for a moment. Henry smiled at the scene. As the two women caught up, he scanned the walls, aware of the gravity of secrets unfurling. The air shifted, filled with things left unsaid. "Mom wanted us to know this address," Emily said, feeling both vulnerable and empowered under Aunt Claire's gaze. "She kept it guarded for a reason. Can you tell us why?" Claire glanced between them, her brow furrowing as she took a deep breath. She was always meant to share this, but... Emily could feel the pendulum swing, the stark tension revealed in that simple word, the crux of their family's battle against silence hanging in the air. "There were things she felt she had to protect you from, especially regarding your grandfather," Aunt Claire proceeded, carefully choosing her words. What came next was a revelation, painting their family history in colors of pain, joy, and ultimately resilience. Claire spoke of love lost, of choices that wove round and round, creating a tapestry of connection. She shared stories of Emily's mother, her own dreams quelled by societal expectations, tangled in relationships that carried echoes of regret and longing. Emily's heart swelled, the hurt and happiness meeting in a bittersweet blend. She had always seen her mother as a steady force, unwavering and strong. Now, she could see the vulnerability hidden behind those smiles. With every detail, she felt herself draw closer to her mother's spirit, a bridge forming from heartbreak to understanding. "But she loved you both fiercely," Aunt Claire finished, her eyes glistening with emotion. "And she only wanted to protect you from the shadows." The rain had let up outside, the sound now a gentle patter on the roof, a calming rhythm. Emily looked over at Henry, their hands brushing together, the connection they had built through grief, understanding, and love. "Thank you for telling us," she said, her voice steady but vulnerable. "This means everything." And as they sat together, within the warmth of an old home, the air tinged with possibility, Emily felt something shift anew inside her. This was not the end, it was just the beginning. The beginnings of healing, real conversations, and family ties strengthened through the recognition of shared burdens. The secrets no longer felt heavy but rather a tapestry woven with love, life, and truth, waiting to be embraced. Together, with a resolve that felt both fragile and powerful, the storm had passed, they had weathered it side by side, hearts laid bare, ready to face their new story, together. Now, if you're feeling the inspiration from this journey of transformation, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this emotional ending, your voices matter. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who also need to see this incredible transformation unfold. Let's build this community together.